Look, do you know what? Sad news, I have to say. It all stems around the steel industry because today the UK government has agreed a £500 million support package for Tata Steel. And it's all about trying to secure these jobs, the future of the workers at Port Talbot. Now, the unions are saying that this is all going to have a devastating effect. It's about trying to move towards things like net zero. 3,000 people up to potentially may lose their jobs. I find this devastating for so many reasons. The obvious, no one wants anyone to lose their job. But these kind of steel plants and stuff, they are often the heart of the industry and the communities. Lots of these guys, I'm going to be honest, it's mainly men sometimes, the men have worked there from school, their dads worked there, whatever. They've never done anything else before often. You're going to strip this industry away from them, and then what?
It's devastating, as you say. 3,000 jobs out the window in that community, the impact that will have economically and socially, the knock-on impact in terms of suppliers who are likely to be affected by it as well. But unfortunately, the truth is it's the sign of our decline as a nation in terms of our industrial base, in terms of our manufacturing sector. This isn't anything new, Michelle. This has been going on for at least 40 years. And you know, the reality is that we are a country now that wrongly, in my view, puts all of its faith in financial services and thinks that that's going to bring us prosperity and has completely neglected our manufacturing base and our industrial base. And actually, when you look at the pandemic, we saw the price that we paid in terms of not having an industrial base, in terms of supply chains and the lack of PPE and stuff. That was as clear-cut an example of why I think it's important for any advanced country to have an industrial base, but we just don't have one. I think the other point is that this is all about net zero. It's about achieving net zero, and it's about decarbonising that plant. And in the rush to net zero, it seems to me, and the GMB union is right to say it, these 3,000 people are losing their jobs. So when we talk about a just transition, it's certainly not a just transition for these people.
Well, this is the problem. I mean, there are 8,000 people employed there. 3,000 of those are expected to lose their jobs, which is, as you say, Michelle, absolutely horrific, the area. But this is this relentless and often unrealistic drive to net zero. These people would be losing their jobs whether this industry was nationalised or whoever was running, or whether it got, another bailout, because this is because of net zero. There will be less jobs available for people there, no matter who was running this particular steelwork. So we have to weigh up now with pretty much everything we do in life. How important is net zero to us? Right, but then
someone would push back, for example. So someone that supports all this stuff would push back to you and say, you know what, on the one hand, so you might lose some jobs, I don't know, in this industry, whatever, but then you're going to generate new jobs in, I don't know, solar power stuff or wind power stuff or whatever.
Yeah, but that's not helping these 3,000 people who potentially lose their jobs straight away,
and it's not happening. And this is the key point. And I can say, as someone at the heart of the trade union movement, this debate has been raging in the trade union movement for several years now, whereas a lot of unions completely behind the net zero calls are saying, yes, there must be a just transition, exactly what you said, Michelle, go into new renewable industries and so on. And the unions that represent workers in current, if you like, fossil fuel industries like the GMB and like Unite are saying, whoa, hold on a second here. There is no evidence that those industries yet exist to any degree where they can take on thousands of workers who may be bombed out of the fossil fuel industry. This is a clear example of it. These 3,000 people have been let down by the trade union movement more widely, and that really upsets me.
And the governments, Paul, and the governments, because, all these grand gestures, all these grand statements, we're going to do it by 2030, by 2050. The people on the ground that are suffering.
Yeah, see, I don't think people have thought through. It all sounds good, doesn't it? We'll do this by 2030, we'll do that by 2050. Yeah, brilliant, sounds great on a piece of paper. But actually, when you look at how you're going to actually achieve that, are we ready to do that? Are the things that you need to be there where they need to be? I would argue probably not. Are the people, the skills, whatever it is there? I just worry that they've not thought it through.
Well, they haven't. They haven't put a safety net in place for these people.
Are you in Port Talbot? Do you work at Tata Steel? I wonder if there's anyone out there watching that's going to be directly impacted by this. It's not just the steel plant as well. You've got all of the cafes, the infrastructure that relies on that workforce.
I mean, if you look at the 1980s, people will have all different views on the great miners' strike in the 1980s, but I think even people who cheered Thatcher on at the time now recognise the legacy that caused in terms of smashing an entire industry, 250,000 men employed in the mine working industry in the 1980s. And for economic reasons, she wanted to run down the industry, turf them all out of work. Now, whether you agreed with that or not at the time, the truth is the legacy that left in terms of, family breakdowns and people being unemployed and not being able to find new jobs, people turning to drink and to drugs and so on. And the kind of deprivation that set in to those communities. Some of these pit villages and towns, exactly what you said about Port Talbot, Michelle, relied on that pit as their main source of employment and their main source of income. And when that went, then we saw the effects of it in terms of the social decay that followed. And we need to remember, even though we think, there's an economic case for getting rid of these 3,000, which I don't think there is at all, by the way, we need to remember what the knock-on effect of that is for the community. It lasts for years, as we saw from the miners.
And this is one of the hearts of the whole levelling up thing, because you've taken a lot of these industries out of the north without actually engaging brain cells as to what it is that you're going to replace them with. So now you've got all of these deprived areas that lack industry. Get in touch, GBViews at gbnews.com. Tell me what you make to it all.